All the Money in the World was directed by Ridley Scott and tells the true story of John Paul Getty's grandson and his kidnapping, and then the famous story of John Paul Getty not wanting to pay the ransom, and we're left thinking, what's going to happen here now? Is John Paul Getty going to pay the ransom? Is the grandson going to die? Is he going to survive? What's going to happen here? And so the film basically tells that story to us, focusing in on the kidnapping of John Paul Getty III, as well as looking at John Paul Getty and what he was going through and what his mindset was about this whole situation. So going into this movie, I was looking forward to it. It's mainly because it's a Ridley Scott film, and I'll see anything and everything Ridley Scott does. Sure, not everything he's touched has been gold, you know, it's not as if every film Ridley Scott has made has been absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to kid myself into thinking that's the case. But he is one of my favourite directors of all time. He's in my top 5 favourite directors, and this film cements that for me because he did an incredible job with this movie. And if you know anything about the behind the scenes and the making of with this film, you know that it originally starred Kevin Spacey as John Paul Getty, and then with all the sexual allegations that came out regarding Kevin Spacey, Ridley Scott was like, and this is why I love Ridley Scott, because this has never been done in the history of filmmaking, and Ridley Scott was like, okay, and a day later he was like, let's just replace Kevin Spacey, let's shoot it with another actor. In a week, all the scenes reshot, and still came out a month later for its original release date. It's just insane, and Ridley Scott just did it like it was just nothing, and he's just such a legend. Ridley Scott is just so amazing. Nobody else, I don't think, could have pulled that off, but he somehow was able to pull it off. And if you're wondering, oh, does it feel a bit weird? Can you tell that Kevin Spacey was cut and he was replaced with someone else? No, not at all. I mean, there was one little moment toward the beginning of the movie where it looked like, you know, Kevin Spacey was maybe digitally removed and Christopher Plummer was kind of green screened in, just for like 1 5-second shot, but that was about it. You would not think watching this movie that it originally starred someone else, and I'm so glad in hindsight that Kevin Spacey was replaced. I don't hate Kevin Spacey as an actor or anything, but I feel like it would have been distracting with Kevin Spacey in this rubber mask and everyone else just looks normal, and yet Kevin Spacey would have been under these layers of prosthetics and makeup, and I don't know if you would have been able to take it seriously. It might have taken you out of the movie. With Christopher Plummer, I think that was a much better choice. He was originally their first choice for the role, and they were pressured to go with more of a famous star like Kevin Spacey because he's hot right now, but thankfully they went back and replaced him with Christopher Plummer, and I think that was the best choice they could possibly have made, because Christopher Plummer in this movie, he wasn't just good, I think he was the best part of the film. Now, I do like everything else, but for me, Christopher Plummer's scenes were just so much better than everything else in the movie. And like I said, I did like the movie overall, but the Christopher Plummer scenes were like on a whole nother level. He was just incredible in this movie as John Paul Getty. I'm so glad they recast the role and put him in the movie, because every time Christopher Plummer is up there on screen, he really does just steal the show, and he commands the screen. He has this captivating kind of magnetic screen presence where you're just drawn to him, and he just really helps to elevate the film, and he was absolutely fantastic in this movie. And when the nominations for these awards shows started coming out and Christopher Plummer was up there as Best Supporting Actor, I'll admit I was like, oh, they're just doing that because of the whole story surrounding Kevin Spacey and because he was replaced, and they want to just make a big statement. No, he's nominated because he was bloody brilliant in this movie. He was really great. I think he was by far the best part in the movie. I loved him and his portrayal of John Paul Getty, and I think his scenes were some of the best in the movie. But the cast all round, Michelle Williams, another one of my favourite actresses working today. Again, every time you see her in a movie, she really brings it. She's an incredible actress. I mean, what she did in Manchester by the Sea was amazing. She only had a really small role in that movie, and I think she was even nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She was so good. But in this movie, again, she's doing something quite different with her accent. You know, she sounds a little different, but she did a really great job. Mark Wahlberg is doing this typical Mark Wahlberg thing, and it works. He was good as always, and he played his part well. The back and forth he has with John Paul Getty was really great. And even the young boy, Charlie Plummer, I think his name is, which is kind of ironic. I don't think Charlie Plummer and Christopher Plummer are related, but it's kind of funny actually that the granddad and the grandson both have the same name, Plummer, but I don't know. And the young boy Charlie Plummer, he was really great as well. He has quite a big role as the kidnapped kind of John Paul Getty III. And what I really liked about this film, and what I really liked about how Ridley Scott directed this movie, is that it wasn't just focused on one thing. It was basically looking at these two sides of the story. It was a kind of kidnap thriller about John Paul Getty III and trying to get him back, you know, from the kidnappers and paying the ransom and all that. But it was also a really great and really fascinating character study of John Paul Getty, played by Christopher Plummer. And so it was both these two things at the same time. And for me, it really worked. And it worked on both levels. And it was a really kind of engaging drama that okay, maybe it could have been more fast-paced and more dynamic and more intense. I had the same kind of issue, I suppose, with Murder on the Orient Express. But I like that they focus on both those aspects and both those sides of the story. You know, it was a great kidnap thriller, but it was also a really fascinating character study of John Paul Getty at the same time. And I think those two sides of the story really blended well together, and I liked how they cut back and forth between those two parts of the film. Obviously my favourite parts were the Christopher Plummer scenes with him as John Paul Getty. He's actually in the film a lot more than you think he is. You know, he's not just got like a small little role here or just a little cameo or anything. He does actually have a fairly large role. But like I said, it also dealt with the kidnapping of his grandson John Paul Getty III, and that played a big part in the movie as well. And so I really liked how Ridley Scott did that and how he balanced those two things at the same time, because I didn't know going in what this film was actually going to be and what it was going to focus on, but I liked how they told both the sides of the story. We saw it from John Paul Getty's point of view, and we also saw it from the mother of the grandson's point of view, and I just desperately wanting to get her grandson back. But we also saw it from John Paul Getty and why he didn't want to pay the ransom and what his kind of mindset was, and you can kind of see where it's coming from, even though you're like, screw him, he's an arsehole, what is he doing? But at the same time, you can kind of understand why he doesn't want to pay the ransom, even though he loves his grandson, he wants him back. You can kind of understand the mentality of his character and why he would not want to pay the ransom. You know, he even says in the film, you know, if I pay it, it will go from 12 grandchildren to 12 hostage grandchildren, or something along that lines. I'm paraphrasing here. So you can kind of understand where he's coming from, even though you're not really on his side, you don't really like him. But Christopher Plummer did an incredible job. He really sold it in the role as John Paul Getty, and everyone in the movie were terrific, and there's not really a whole lot else to say here. It's a movie that, if you've seen the trailer, it basically does what it says on the tin. You know, maybe it could have been a little bit more intense at times, a little bit more fast-paced and dynamic. Like I said, Murder on the Orient Express was another film that I had that kind of issue with, where I think it really, you know, accomplished what it set out to do, but it could have been a little bit more dynamic, and I felt like the same kind of thing applies here. But overall, on the most part, we're taking all factors into account of what happened behind the scenes and just the making of this film, replacing Kevin Spacey with Christopher Plummer. I think Ridley Scott did a remarkable job. I think it's an achievement that really deserves to be recognised, what he did with this movie, and Christopher Plummer was incredible in the film as John Paul Getty. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He was that good. All the actors in the movie really brought it. It was a really great kidnap thriller crossed with a kind of really fascinating character study of this guy, John Paul Getty. And yeah, it's not one of Ridley Scott's best films, but I did really enjoy it, and I thought it was a really good film. So there we go. Overall, I'm going to give All the Money in the World 4 stars. It wasn't an amazing film. It's not like this is one of Ridley Scott's best films or anything, but I think it was a really good movie, and I actually really enjoyed it. So there we go. That wraps up my review of All the Money in the World. Have you seen the film yet? And if so, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this and you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more. If you missed my last review, be sure to go ahead and click over here to catch up on my last review, or perhaps down here to catch up on one of my recent videos. But with that said, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.